Ladies and gentlemen, this is part number 10 or segment 10 of my new channel, $1 spelled with a Z. And in segment number 9, I described to you that the corners of the $1 bills have 4 crisscrossing the word 1 and the numeral 1 that represent the handles of where you would hold the Ark of the Covenant while manhandling it through the desert. Now, proof of this is that no one could touch the Ark of the Covenant. No one was allowed to touch the Ark of the Covenant. If you touched the Ark of the Covenant, you would die. Okay. The only way the house of the Jewish people, the priests, were allowed to touch the Ark of the Covenant while by placing the poles through the loops that were attached to the sides of the Ark of the Covenant and that appear on the $1 bills as loops and that lock around the poles that run up the side of the Ark of the Covenant. So the only place that a man was allowed to touch the Ark of the Covenant were the poles made of what was called Shittum wood, S-H-I-T-T-E-M, or U-M, depending on your spelling, Shittum wood that were wrapped in gold. And these poles went through loops or hoops, and a man was allowed to pick up the Ark of the Covenant. The word 1 represents one aspect of an entity called God or man. This is where God and man intercepted one another, in that the only place a man was allowed to touch the Ark of the Covenant were the handles that held the Ark of the Covenant. So at this point, a man would hold the number 1, or the word 1, and the number 1 represents the one God of the universe. As complex and as many gods that appear on the $1 bill, and there are dozens of different forms of gods that appear on the $1 bill, as complex as the different gods that appear, aka a cherubim, which is a protectorate of the Lord God, or an angel, which is godlike in nature, and this is the face of a cherubim, and this is the face of another cherubim. The many different types of gods that appear on the $1 bill are the different representations of the one Lord God, represented in this case as the pyramid, represented in this segment of the pictographs as a glory emanating from heaven itself, this being the eye of God. Another aspect of God is the opposite of the Lord God, that he also allowed to be placed on the $1 bill because you have a choice as a free man. These are several different types of representations of gods that appear on the $1 bill. If nuclear energy, understanding that 90% of all bombs and munitions factories and 90% of all municipalities are owned by 1.5% of the Earth's populace, aka the faction of this Earth's populace that we have come to know as the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, and you know what I'm saying? And the dildo burgers. If 90% of all the war-making entities on Earth are of Jewish origin, and they are, that means, let me explain to you what that means, okay? it doesn't mean that straight up and down 90% of the manufacturing plants on Earth are owned by Jewish entities. It means that 90% of all munitions factories, bomb-making factories, nuclear municipalities that create nuclear energy, 90% of all the stocks and bonds and shareholders of all things that have to do with bomb-making and death to your sons, daughters, children, and mothers and fathers, 90% of every aspect of bomb-making, nuclear power, and munitions are owned by 1.5% of the populace of this planet. And to make you understand how far back it goes, the Rothschilds funded both sides of the war and lent money to put America in debt. And they also funded both sides of Napoleon's war to put Europe in debt. But moving past that, at one time I worked in a machine shop, and I discovered that my boss learned how to speak Hebrew because he was making parts that weren't much bigger than the tip of my pointer. Actually, they were the size of the tip of a ballpoint pen. And he was making these parts, and it cost him 5 cents to make the part. And the United States government wanted 1 million of these parts. And he called up a manufacturer of Jewish background and asked him how much the parts would be. And they told him the parts would be 9 cents. So it was costing him 5 cents to make the parts, and they told him 9 cents. So he could make them cheaper than he could purchase them for. Then he called up the next day and brought us into the office once again and spoke Hebrew to the same person and asked them how much the same manufacturing plant would charge to make the pieces the size of the tip of a ballpoint pen, and they told him 2.5 cents because he spoke Hebrew to them. So now the price changed by 6.5 cents or 300% because he spoke Hebrew. And this is how the Jewish people maintain their control over the Gentiles, which is everybody, the Goy. This is a fact, ladies and gentlemen. I saw it for myself. But moving past that, which we have to do at this point, I'm going to tell you that all of this is discussed in my book to some detail. But at this point, we're going to put this particular pictograph away. And we're going to go to the images. Oh, that's the wrong one. We're going to go, oh, that's the wrong one too. We're going to go to the high resolution images, and we're going to click this, and I'm going to show you the God pod in its entirety. And I'm going to go over some of the things that appear in the God pod in segment number 8 in great detail, and I'm just going to briefly give you a synopsis in segment number 7, because in fact this segment has almost come to an end. However, we have one more minute. This is the base of the Great Pyramid, and these letters represent the number 1776, which is the same type of gift that the Lord God gave to the Israelites in the form of the Ark of the Covenant, and the same type of gift that the Lord God gave to the Egyptians in the form of the Great Pyramid. It was an experiment to give enlightenment to these 3 different cultures. And at this point, segment number 7 is about to end. So we're going to have to say, ladies and gentlemen, please visit my website on Amazon.com and review my preview of the book. And this is Michael Fazio saying I need to get a bigger camera.